When I look back at that particular evening, I realize that the simplest moments sometimes end up creating the most lasting memories. My name is Emily, and I grew up in a fairly ordinary suburban neighborhood in Ohio. Our house wasn't large, but it was filled with noise, laughter, and the constant comingings and goings of my family. My younger brother, Jacob, was 3 years younger than me, and for most of our childhood, he had been the kind of kid who followed me around like a shadow. As we grew older, though, things shifted. He made friends of his own. I got busy with schoolwork and my circle of friends, and soon the closeness we once had started to slip away. That evening, though, something happened that brought us back to a kind of bond we hadn't felt in a long time. Our parents had been invited to a neighborhood dinner, and because Jacob and I were both considered old enough, they decided to leave us at home. Mom left behind a casserole and instructions. Dad reminded us to lock the doors, and then they were gone. It was just me and Jacob in the quiet of our house. At first, I thought I'd spend the evening in my room reading. I had been absorbed in a new novel and craved some uninterrupted time. But as I passed by the living room, I saw Jacob sitting there looking bored, tossing a baseball up and down as though the walls themselves were closing in on him. Something about his expression gave me pause. I knew what it felt like to be left out, to feel like everyone else had better things to do. And for once, I decided to step away from my own plans and just spend time with him. "Hey, Jacob," I said, leaning against the door frame. "Want to do something?" He looked up at me like I'd just spoken in another language. "Like what?" I shrugged. "I don't know. Something fun. Maybe we can make up our own game or cook something, and then the idea hit me. What if we build a fort?" His eyes lit up in an instant. It was the kind of excitement only kids usually feel, but that night it caught both of us. He sat up straight, his boredom melting away, like the blanket forts we used to make. "Exactly," I said, already picturing it. "Only this time, we're older so we can make it even better. A real fortress." Within minutes, we were dragging blankets and cushions from every corner of the house. We pulled chairs into the living room, stretching sheets across them like rooftops, stacking pillows to form walls, and stringing Christmas lights we found in a box in the basement. The living room slowly transformed into a glowing hideout. Jacob and I laughed, harder than we had in months, arguing over which blanket was better for the roof and who should be in charge of the engineering side of things. By the time we were done, it didn't look like just a fort. It was a small, glowing city. We crawled inside with bowls of popcorn, flashlights, and a deck of cards. For the first time in a long while, Jacob didn't feel like just my younger brother. He felt like a friend. We played cards by flashlight, telling stories between shuffles. Some stories were made-up adventures about heroes and villains, while others were memories from when we were younger, like the time Jacob had tried to skateboard down the driveway and ended up in a pile of leaves, or when I accidentally dyed my hair pink with Kool-Aid. Each memory brought back more laughter. At one point, the lights flickered in the house. Thunder rolled outside and rain began to patter against the windows. Instead of feeling nervous, we looked at each other and grinned. The storm made our fort feel even cozier, like our own safe shelter against the world. I suggested we tell spooky stories, even, though we both knew neither of us was particularly brave. Still, Jacob dove right in, making up a story about a haunted treehouse at the edge of the woods, while I added eerie sound effects with my flashlight. Somewhere between laughter and shivers, I realized how much I had missed moments like this. Life had gotten so busy, and sometimes I treated Jacob as just the annoying little brother rather than the person he really was. Someone who shared my childhood, my home, and so many of my memories. After a while, we decided to cook something together. The casserole Mom left us was in the fridge, but Jacob wanted to make something from scratch. We raided the kitchen, pulling out pancake mix, chocolate, chips, and anything else we could find. Soon, the kitchen was a mess of flour and batter, but our pancakes came out golden and sweet. We brought them back into the fort, stacking them on plates and eating them with sticky fingers. As the storm outside grew louder, the fort became our world. Jacob told me about his soccer games, how he sometimes felt nervous being the youngest on his team, and how he wished he could be braver when it came to trying new things. I listened, really listened, and realized that for all the times I thought he was just a kid, he had thoughts and worries just like me. I shared my own struggles with him. How school was overwhelming, how sometimes I felt like I didn't fit in with my friends, and how I was scared of the future. To my surprise, Jacob didn't laugh or dismiss my feelings. He nodded, thoughtfully, giving me advice in his own simple way. Hours passed, and the storm outside finally began to fade. The living room was a soft glow of Christmas, lights and laughter. We curled up inside the fort, not because we were tired, but because it felt safe. For the first time. In years, I felt like Jacob and I had bridged the distance that had grown between us. When our parents returned, they stood in the doorway, staring in disbelief at the blanket kingdom we had built. Mom laughed. Dad shook his head, but both of them smiled in a way that showed they were glad to see us together. That night didn't change the world. It didn't solve every problem or make everything perfect. But it reminded me that family doesn't always need big moments or grand gestures. Sometimes all it takes is a suggestion, a simple "let's do this" to turn an ordinary night into a memory worth keeping forever. Even now, years later, I can still picture the fort glowing in the dark, the sound of rain tapping against the windows, and my younger brother's laughter echoing inside. And I'll always remember that. Sometimes the best adventures don't happen outside in the world, but right at home when you choose to make the most of the time you have together.